This Sports Plus conversation is sponsored by your Quality Ford dealers. Ford F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 47 years.
You could argue nobody has seen more live sports in our town over the last 40 years than Jim Thomas. The former St. Louis Rams beat writer turned St. Louis Blues beat writer is off the beat now, but he's not done writing. Thomas has penned a new book, The Franchise, a curated history of the St. Louis Blues. He dropped by earlier this week to talk about it for tonight's Sunday Conversation. And it is my pleasure to welcome former Post-Dispatch beat writer Jim Thomas to Sports Plus. Now, Jim, when people retire, they play a lot of golf, they vacation. You wrote this book, The Franchise St. Louis Blues. Why did you do it?
First off, you haven't seen me golf, so I once hit a moving car at the old North Shore course. I don't know if it's still on the hop, hit the grill. The guy honked at me, gave me the finger, but thank God he drove off. So I like to play where it's cheap and there are few witnesses. But this came about, this is like 2 years in the making, Corey. About a month before I announced my retirement from the Post-Dispatch, so about April of 2023, I was approached by Triumph Books, publishing firm, regional publishing firm in Chicago. There's never really been an attempt at an extensive history of the Blues, so it was a lot of fun to do, a lot of research, mixed in personal observations, being on the Blues beat for 6 years at the end of my career, but also did some fresh interviews for the book, so a lot of fun.
Tell me about the sheer amount of work that goes into summing up 50 years of a team's history into this book.
Well, I figured out maybe I made about $9 an hour. So if you want to buy the book, you can. I am on a fixed income now. But yeah, it was a lot. And I think you'd be hard pressed, maybe fans in a lot of cities say it, to find a franchise that has had so many crazy things happen, so many ups and downs, almost moving to Saskatoon, and just some great players being here, Gretzky and Hull, and great coaches, Scotty Bowman, Al Arbor, on and on. And it was a task to sum it all up. I couldn't go maybe into depth on some things, but we covered a lot of ground.
You led into something I was going to ask you. How close was this to being a history of the Saskatoon Blues book?
Well, it was very close, and I think part of the reason that it didn't happen is because enough NHL owners thought Saskatoon was too small of a market. But yeah, it was very close to happening. They had agreed. They were in the plans of building a stadium up there. They had Saskatoon Blues swag up there at the time. So that was quite a save. And during that period, I mean, the Blues were financially, they were strapped. I remember Bernie Federko, and I believe it's in the book, telling me that they would get like hand-me-down warm-up uniforms, and also he signed a bunch of sticks, gave it to a friend. Ownership made him take the sticks back and use them in games. So he was using sticks he had autographed in games.
I know, fans know a lot of the history. You know almost all the history, but did you unearth anything while writing this book you maybe didn't know before that was kind of amusing?
Well, especially a lot of the early things, the early history. The first thing I say to people about that, I did not know this, being a St. Louis native, big sports fan. St. Louis had an NHL team in 1934. They were called the St. Louis Eagles. The front of their jersey looked very similar to the Anheuser-Busch symbol. They were the old Ottawa Senators. They lasted only 1 year. And Lynn Patrick, who was the first GM and first coach of the expansion Blues in 1967, played the Eagles at the old arena as a member of the New York Rangers, and then later came back as coach. So that blew my mind. But a lot of other things. We had the Chicago Blackhawks play home games here, Corey, in the mid-50s and part of 2 seasons. In 1960, the Toledo Mercuries, a minor league team, played 14 games here. They had I think it was the American Congress Bowling Convention, which was a big thing to get in Toledo or any town at the time, taking up their arena for the whole month. So their arena in Toledo, so we had room here and no hockey teams, so they played 14 games there. It's just some of the crazy stuff.
Not a lot of journalists out there who can say they were on the beat for a Super Bowl win and a Stanley Cup win. You can. Did you ever think when you're sitting in a NFL press box you'd be writing a hockey book? Take me through the That's a big transition for somebody to make it in their career. How do you reflect on that time going from football to hockey?
Especially, you know, late in a career. So I was petrified because I know sports fans in St. Louis, they know their teams. And if you don't know what you're talking about or writing about, they discover it pretty quick. But he talked me into it, and I have 3 boys. The youngest, Roger, I knew he was a Blues fan, but when I just agreed to take on the beat, I didn't realize what a fanatic he was. He really helped me out a lot the first year. They didn't have me travel for about the first month of the season. They just wanted me to kind of gradually get my feet wet. My son, Roger, would come over and he'd sit down. He would act literally, I swear, explain stuff to me. I'm glad the Blues didn't win the Cup that first year because I wouldn't have known what I was seeing. I had a year under my belt for that amazing 2018-2019 season.
Tell folks where they can get the book and where you might be out signing some copies.
Well, Amazon.com online, TriumphBooks.com. A lot of book signings. I'm doing a lot of craft fairs. So if you're at your high school craft fair, look in between the scented candles and the crochet items, and there'll be this old man selling books. That'll be me.
Jim, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate your time. We'll be right back with more Sports Plus.